Hey, we're back. It's me, Jeff, and
Claude Faitier.
um, so we're gonna do a review and a tribute. You've seen me a whole bunch of times in front of this poster. This is, I really love to get movie posters, and I really love James Brown. So this has been in the background several times, but a lot more significant to this episode. Claude and I just had to get to it and do our tribute to Chadwick Boseman. We all have had heard the news and the heartbreak to find an actor just on the rise with such a large body of work in a short period of time from a film perspective, only to have him taken away from us due to cancer, and then only discover what a really wonderful humanitarian he was afterwards. I mean, Claude, I'll let you tell your Chadwick Boseman story, but I just wanted to say is that when I started finding out more and more about the tributes about him, I just started even feeling more strongly about Chadwick Boseman. I felt even better about him as a human being. I hadn't heard his Howard speech at his alma mater, Howard University. I hadn't heard him give that speech until after he passed. I heard about the story of how many different celebrity circles that he's crossed in his career on his ascension to movie stardom. But really, the more I found out about him, the more there was to love about Chadwick Boseman. And so I'll let you go next.
You know what? I really don't have necessarily a particular story. I just sort of remember Friday night. My friend Martin Hammett had texted this article from the New York Times saying that he had passed, and this was literally like breaking news. And I was just literally. I was just literally frozen. I honestly felt that life had kicked me in the chest really, really badly, And it's not so much. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things, that one goes into someone's mind. But of course, it's just a great tragedy when somebody is so young is taken, is taken away. And this is sort of like a tragedy that I guess different generations had to feel. I know back in the 50s, you had the passing away of someone like James Dean. I think that when we were young, we definitely remember other people passing away. Bruce Lee. That was in the 70s. That's probably around the time we both discovered kung fu movies. And just someone who was bright and amazing, just gone. In the 90s, of course, it was Biggie and Tupac. And I guess the thing that sort of, that sort of, we're going through this again with this incredibly talented man. And I guess the thing that sort of, just stuck out in terms of different stories, there were definitely the stories where he went to, visited, went to hospital visits around the time of his treatment, and he was, talking about the kids, and he got, emotionally choked up because a number of kids they were couldn't wait till they got to see the Black Panther movie. Some of them some of them felt like that's one of the reasons why they were holding on. And I remember just when I saw part of that interview, and it was just it was just something that's amazing. And to a lot of, I'm also touched sort of like by the fact that the kids sort of had like the funeral service for Black Panther, because he introduced a number of these kids to comic books. And it's just, so it was, so I guess that was one of the main things. I'm sure we probably crossed paths with a bunch of different stories about, like the actors, different actors, and just how they played a role, and how he sort of was very, grateful, not just for knowing them, but that they somehow or another were on his path of him becoming, like you said, his ascension to becoming a star, and everything goes into like sort of in a way just almost like a complete circle. And the one thing I want to just sort of keep in mind, and I don't know this, it's you know, it's sad, but I was also just thinking about the date in terms of just the whole idea of August 28th, and uh, I guess something that sort of didn't necessarily give me comfort, but I thought it was a little bit of a bright line in terms of the date. You know, it was just like August 28th. That was the day that that Emmett Till, died, and it was his event that led to our country dealing with its original sin. You know, that date is also shared on this as a March 28th, 1963. It was also the March on Washington, and that was a big spectacle. You know, as the country is dealing with its original sin. And a couple other things, and it's just sort of a little bit of a nutshell. It was also, they were celebrating Jackie Robinson Day, the Major League Baseball, the very same day, which was basically the movie that sort of made him into a star, being, way he was a hero in a bunch of different ways, but a hero in terms of the sports world, the beginning of his career. And last but not least, August 28th, 1917 was the birthday of Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby was the artist that worked at Marvel, and he was the one that drew. He and Stan Lee conceived the Black Panther, but he drew the Black Panther appearing in the Fantastic Four comic book. So this is a day that he sort of, this is a day, sort of in a way marking a beginning and an end of things for him. And I would definitely prefer for him to, be alive and continuing to do great roles. But I guess that was, out of the sadness, that was just the one thing. It was sort of like the ending of something, and at the same time the beginnings, and just in history and in terms of his movie history.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Claude. Thanks for sharing that. What I was going to say about Chadwick Boseman was just about how so much of his career is iconic. His education at the beloved and iconic HBCU, Howard University. Howard has a very special place in Black folks' hearts as universities. Many of the HBCUs have their own different place in Black people's hearts. Morehouse has a certain place. Tuskegee has a certain place. And Howard has its own special place. And for him to be a Howard grad, again, you just don't immediately think of a Hollywood star about their education and about what college they come from. That doesn't immediately come to you as something that's supposed to be significant about a big movie star. But it is significant about this movie star, significant about this Black movie star. He played so many iconic characters, and for also him to come from such an iconic upbringing academically is just fitting. Much like you're saying, the dates seem fitting. It's just so fitting. And to come again for many of us to discover this additional greatness about Chadwick Boseman beyond the flashing Hollywood lights is just amazing and astounding. And so when we say iconic, he played iconic roles. So from playing James Brown, my favorite musician, and we haven't reviewed Get On Up, but I'll give my Get On Up story is that I was just thinking about this film. I was hoping for a film like this, and then it came. I don't know if you remember when I told you about this. I love James Brown. I got all James Brown's albums. I've been listening to James Brown when I was very, very, very little. So So when James Brown was in or James Brown was out, where hip hop was sampling, James Brown was the most sampled person in all of hip hop for a very long time. And he's followed by the Isley Brothers. And so, as well as, James Brown is just such an iconic figure in music. The creator of funk and the whole concept of getting up on the one, and how all musical instruments are percussive. So James Brown himself was iconic. And I was asking myself, it's like, man, James Brown is always saying, Bobby, give me something, Bobby this, Bobby that. And I'm like, who the heck is Bobby? And so only now in the internet age, I was able to, let me research, who the heck is Bobby? He's been calling out Bobby since the 50s. And I looked it up, it was Bobby Bird. And the more I looked into it, the more amazing the story was. That Bobby Bird discovered James Brown. And also he discovered Bootsy Collins for James Brown to be in James Brown's band. And so when I started that, I think I might have called you right away. I said, man, I got the story, the script, the way to give a James Brown film. I told you is that, well, do it the same way you would do Sherlock Holmes. Do it from the perspective of Dr. Watson telling you about his adventures with Sherlock Holmes. We needed to have the James Brown story told from a Bobby Bird's point of view. And sure enough, we got Get On Up. And it came like a year and a half afterwards. Wow. It came out about a year and a half afterwards. And Chadwick Boseman, when I first thought about it, I was like, even from this post, I'm like, well, it doesn't really look like James Brown. And then most of the time when people do James Brown, it's kind of a caricature of James Brown, right? I mean, James Brown was so bigger than life that it's hard to imagine someone doing James Brown in a way that's not going to be silly. And even if you cover his whole life, you're going to cover from him being young and slim and doing the splits and incredible dancer and playing soulful crooning. You'd have to carry the arc through all the genres of movies, of music, 50s music, 60s music, 70s music, 80s music, which he did with Full Force Get Busy one time. And I'll just have to say, I'm sorry, it's James Brown. I loved all of it, all eras, every version. And Chadwick Boseman embodied all of those. A great actor who wants to make her or his mark will seek out roles that cover, a span of time and lots of change in the life of a character. And Chadwick Boseman did that. He was choosy about the roles he picked. And this particular covering of Get On Up, now that I've done my full Get On Up review here, covered that whole arc, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s music, his background of his upbringing. They had a fine young actor play James Brown as a baby, so obviously Chad didn't play the baby role, but he had to carry on the performance as an adult, as if he was that young child actor, and it was seamless. I watched it recently, and I want to say certainly after Chadwick passed, well, then I started binge watching all his iconic films. I had to see it again, and it stood up. The cast that he was matched up against, all Academy Award winners and nominees, and of course, I mean, he stood up to both the role that he was playing, and he stood well as an actor against all these other folks. Plus, another thing I like to say all the time is I'm always fascinated too with how people are able to suppress their accents, right? And I tell you about that all the time. I mean, I get a real kick out of Australians and Brits, suppressing their accent. And in his case, he had to really suppress his accent. He and for that matter, Denzel doesn't have to. It depends on what role he plays. But I mean, he does not sound like anything like any of the characters that he's played. Not like a single one. And the closest he came to it is in the film that we're going to close out and review on, was 21 Bridges, and even 21 Bridges, if you listen real close, he's supposed to be a New York cop, so he adopts a New York accent and not, if I'm getting this right, his native Philly? Is it native Philly accent? I may be getting it wrong, which I should do my homework. But his accent is very strong. His natural dialect is nothing, and it's certainly not Black Panther. For Black Panther, in interviews, he said he wanted to sound more like Nelson Mandela's ethnic group. One of the fascinating things about the Black Panther film is that they allowed different characters to go ahead and pick a different dialect from Africa, since Wakanda is a fictional nation anyway. And yes, they came up with Wakandan script and Wakandan words, but for the fun of it, for the diaspora of it, for the embracing of all things African, they let the different actors go ahead and choose a different dialect, even though even though most people don't know. And then Africans would be like, it was not a matter of not being right because it's fictional. So Africans can say, okay, well, that's Twi, and that's Ga, and that's Fulani, and that's Serer. And so when you hear him, in an interview, you're like, man, really? This is how you sound every single day? Because he kills it in every role that he plays. James Brown, iconic. Thurgood Marshall, iconic. Jackie Robinson, iconic. And then, of course, a fictional Afrocentric character, T'Challa, the King of Wakanda, taking us to a whole new world of comic book Afrofuturism, while pulling in so many of the things that we know and recognize from African culture and dialect and African royalty. It just makes you want to say Wakanda forever. For him to play these roles, they're going to be with us forever. That's the one blessing. These performances are going to be with us forever. And so that's what I would say about Chadwick Boseman. He picked his roles carefully. And he did it in a way that had him playing iconic roles, biographies, things that will catapult you into greatness. Play great people and play them well. Cover the arc of their lives, play the good, the bad, and the ugly. Even Wakanda, again, in a comic book fictional thing, he had to start with, just idolizing his daddy, to having to struggle with, well, daddy, you made decisions that I wouldn't make. And now it's my time. You raised me well enough that now it's my time to take on my role, and I'm going to go a different route. Even from his introduction to Black Panther, which was introduced during Captain America's Civil War, that's where he was introduced, and that's where you were given, the really close tie between him and his father. Right, and then they kill off his father early on, but that tie was made in Captain America: Civil War with the excellent actor who played King T'Chaka, and you could just tell that he loved his dad, he idolized his dad, everything his dad seemed right, even if he didn't agree with him. He wasn't interested in politics. His dad was interested in getting into the Sokovia Accords. And he wasn't so sure he wanted to do that, but whatever his dad said, was solid. All of that was put into, comic book Afrofuturist fantasy, and that acting and that drama pulled out, and Chad crushed it. Here he was the lead character, the king in a film, surrounded by strong women, and again crushed that. Right, was not. Diminished or felt like he had to be overly puffed up or anything like that. Essentially, Black Panther is, if I get my count right, I want to say 6, and I'm probably not wrong. If we would look at it, there's probably 6 strong Black women in there. There's at least 4 prominent key characters, but if I sneak it in there, we could probably find even 2 more to throw on top. To say he's surrounded by strong Black women. He has a villain who is a male. But the fact that our hero character is surrounded by strong Black women, and he still stands out because it's a standout character and it's a standout performance. So Chadwick Boseman will be missed. Just one more heartbreak from 2020. I'll tell you again, like I said, the way it landed on me I don't know why I didn't. It wasn't super sad because of the discovery. Because the more I found out about his tributes, the more I said, "Wow, this guy's more awesome than I thought." He did what? He had stage 4 cancer for how many years? Then I'm trying to think of how many movies did he shoot while he had cancer, and he didn't tell anybody, and we couldn't tell.
Yeah.
And then the volunteerism he did with young children at cancer, and he didn't tell them he had cancer. Just amazing. It's amazing to have that combination of sharing his wonderful talent with us in wonderful films, and also being a wonderful human being. It's just great. And then that's when recently maybe they pulled up the release for cable sooner, but 21 Bridges became available for me to be able to access on the different streaming services that I have. So I watched 21 Bridges because I wanted to catch them all up. I saw Da 5 Bloods already. We reviewed Da 5 Bloods earlier. We had no idea, you and I, that Chad had stage 4 cancer at the time. He was very skinny in that film.
Yeah, and
very skinny in film.
Yeah.
But again, we didn't comment on it. It didn't impact his performance. It was like a little off. We're like, oh, okay. You better eat a few more chicken wings and do some more push-ups in time for the next Black Panther, right? And we were more thrown off by the fact that they let the old actors, stay old, and Chad be young, because it didn't impact his performance in any way. He was their beloved, strong leader, and that was the character, and his performance completely fulfilled that. Yeah. Here you had 4 men coming from 4 different perspectives in Da 5 Bloods, and not all of them, were, good. One of them is the bad guy character who's making bad choices, and the others are from a different perspective, but they all loved their platoon leader, played by Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
And you watched it, you're like, okay, I see why. I get it. I understand why they loved him. The performance crushes it. And then this most recent film, and I think that gets the full filmography, or at least the most recent filmography of the 21 Bridges.
Yeah. I think there's one more coming out, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, that's going to be coming out. So that will be the last time we see him. August Wilson play.
Yeah. Based off of a play, that would be wonderful to see, because he began his career in theater. Yeah. He began his career in theater, and he was picky and choosy about the films that he went after. In many ways, he didn't get into films, in his, late teens, early 20s, and 30s, because he was focused on theater work and writing. My understanding, I didn't know anything about that.
Right.
And that's awesome. And it's clearly where he developed his chops and got his skill sets. So you want to use that to segue into 21 Bridges?
Okay. Yeah. I don't have anything else. To say. I mean, just goodbye. Goodbye, sweet king, and Wakanda forever. In terms of just.
And we're still going to talk about when we talk about 21 Bridges, which is, again, now, by the time I'm watching 21 Bridges, I know that he's already passed.
Yeah.
And I knew that he had cancer, so I'm looking for it, right? And he's gaunt in this film.
Mm-hmm.
The opening sequences or some, of course, film is not shot in order, as most maybe folks don't understand, but most folks know films is absolutely not shot sequentially. So the things you see in the first part of the movie, they could have been shot last. The efficient way films attempt to be efficient, and the efficient way to do films is they shoot all the similar locations together. And so if your hero, looks at the girl across the room at the high school and says, I think I want to marry her one day, and then they get married, have kids, and then get divorced inside the same high school, they'll shoot that all at the beginning. They'll shoot that at the same time. right? They shoot at the same time. Oh, hey, want to go out Sunday? Yeah, let's get married. I can't stand you. Let's divorce. They'll shoot those all at once. And then they'll go shoot the other scenes. And of course, that matters for a person who, the more time is passing, the closer, the sicker he's getting. And the opening sequences, they have a lot of him, taking off his coat and, and taking care of his mom. In the early sequences, Chadwick Boseman plays a tough New York detective. We open up with him being interviewed by the internal affairs because he has a reputation for being a shooter. That's the second part of the way it opens. It opens with the funeral. And again, this is another Chad thing, right? He really does cover characters that span a period of time. And often he has a young person playing his character as a child, and then Chad comes in and shows him as an adult and moves forward. So they found a young actor who kind of favored him a little bit, who's at the funeral of his dad, police officer, who was shot in line of duty or died in the line of duty, where dad fought back and killed two of the bad guys, or caught two of the bad guys, but the third bad guy who kills dad gets away. So that's another looming thing on him, is that his father, the police officer, died in line of duty and one guy got away, right? And so his character is presumably taking out his vengeance on every criminal in search of the one who got away with killing his dad. And so we jump to now he's a detective. He's been a detective a long time, and he's being interviewed by internal affairs because he has a reputation for getting his gun on and shooting bad guys. And we're left as the audience to think, oh, okay, is that what this is about? He's in search of the one that got away, and he's quick to shoot him, and even makes some very trigger-happy statements during his internal affairs interview. So that's how we open with our character with Chad Boseman playing this detective. And even as he goes home to his widowed mom, who's living with him, he's taking care of her, and she has dementia, and he needs a helper to take care of his mom during the day, and then he takes care of his mom during the night. Even that shows him as a sensitive person, but maybe that still might be the edge that's making him quick to shoot. And his mom can't remember everything. And mom even thinks that he's his father sometimes and calls his father's name out when talking to the son. But his mom does remember and says, oh, that's right, son. You go out and face the devil every day. So we're set up with that about this character, that maybe he pulls the gun too often and is the quick one to shoot.
Yeah. No, I think you hit on all the right notes. And what's so funny is that I just sort of made like a very loose connection in terms of his character. I just sort of kept thinking about, characters that were out for revenge because their dads were killed. So I immediately had a Black Panther link to him, sort of in a way being a little bit like Killmonger, or to a certain degree being a little bit like if Batman were a cop, although Batman I don't think would necessarily kill people, but you know what I'm saying. So right. There are a couple. There's a couple of things that just in his setup, which I thought was definitely the setup. They establish who the character is, and and I was fine with who he was, and I bought his character.
Right, and it is funny when you're watching enough films, or too many films, like you and I, and maybe a lot of folks watching us now who've been spending a lot of time binging. You start to notice actors showing up in similar shows that you watch, right? You're like, those two were in such and such together, and those two were in this other film together, and they happen to show up on your streaming service at the same time. So you watch two films with the same set of actors, and you also start noticing themes in people's careers, like this, where he's in a movie where the child, there's the character as a young person, and their daddy dies. which again is what happens to Black Panther. It doesn't happen during the Black Panther movie. It happens in Captain America's Civil War, and then they just sneak it into the front end. They remind you, they sneak it into the front end of the Black Panther storyline. So yeah, he's playing similar type of setups, similar setups, and wondering, you know, if there's going to be a revenge element and of motivating him. So this is a setup for 21 Bridges, where this detective then is now then we're thrown into a heist scene. So after we've established our hero, we see our villains, or what we believe to be our villains, and our villains are presented to us in what appears to be in a very black and white way. We've been given our hero with kind of clearly explained to us what he is, and trying to establish in our mind that perhaps this is a, you know, trigger happy detective seeking revenge for his dad, even if it's a revenge that you can relate to because he's taking care of his mama. He seems like a nice guy, but you know, the facts are he shoots more than everybody else, and he seems proud of it. And you're wondering in your mind, is he trigger happy? So how good is he as a cop? You're wondering. And then we're thrown into two criminals, a salt and pepper team. Interestingly enough, again, these elements are elements that add flavor, and I think, you know, flavor and power to this film, to make it not just any kind of film. Two guys about to do a heist, and it seems like a professional heist. They're driving a BMW. They know what to do. They've worked together before. They're familiar with each other's vibe. We come to learn more and more in depth on the characters, about how close, that they're closer than we even thought. We thought they were just professionally close, but we come to find out, you know, as the story moves forward, nothing is exactly as it seems, and it's not just plot twisty, but it's dramatically twisty, in the sense that the twists that are in the movie that you might you know, that you might just normally expect, like, oh, they got to give us some kind of plot twist in here, so something's gonna happen. They're gonna set you up one way and they're gonna turn the other way, and big plot twist. Well, yes and no. It's richer than that, because the way that they make their turns a little bit deeper. These two professional, we see the beginning of what's clearly going to be a heist. A salt and pepper team, two professionals. Because of salt and pepper, you're wondering, well, one's black, one white, so they can't be that close. So one of them's going to behave differently than the other one was prepared for. I've seen these movies before. You know, one of them's not going to want to do it and be as violent as the other one. But it's deeper than that. The film engages that their relationship is deeper than that. They're not only good shooters together, they're driving a BMW, so they're not just professionals who make good money doing these crimes. But when they go into do this crime and things don't turn out as they were planned, that's a deeper plot point to the story. Professional heist guys like themselves expect to not have any surprises, that there shouldn't have been a surprise, and there must be some deeper mystery to this story, to why these two guys didn't get to pull off their heist exactly as planned. There was what's the term? There was abundance of I always get the expression wrong. It was too good. There were too many riches, and that's a bad thing in a professional crime world. So we're flung into that. It kind of draws you in, and even as you're trying to guess at maybe a simple answer to you know what's going on, our character Chadwick Boseman is brought in as the homicide detective to go find out who these criminals who were involved in this heist, because police were shot, and so now the tensions are super high. Anytime there's a police shooting, the tensions are high. They brought this detective in to go and solve this mystery, and Chadwick Boseman's character is forced to be a good detective and not only chase these guys down, but solve the mystery behind the crime, and not just be out there and seek revenge, seek blue revenge. And I felt, you know, the movie I was actually impressed by the movie. I was expecting it just to be kind of very superficial and it to do everything I expected to do. And it seemed like the trailer, to be honest with you, I wasn't in that big of a hurry to see the movie because it seemed like the trailer had given it all away. I only wanted to see the movie because Chadwick Boseman was in it. But the trailer seemed to have given away all the plot points. So it didn't seem that there was going to be much more to it. But in fact, the choice of them are actually more about relationships and are more compelling, finding out about how all the characters' relationships are deeper than we thought. What'd you think?
All right. Yeah, no, I had a lot of feelings in terms of watching this movie. I definitely was drawn to the trailer because, you know, you sort of had this sense that he was a badass cop, and then he was just going to be like, we have to shut the island of New York down. Let's cut everything down. So I had very high expectations in terms of this movie. I thought it was, I was expecting it to be sort of like a one-man war type of a movie, or somebody who's, I mean, if I had seen the trailer for this, it definitely, I mean, I did see the trailer for this. But so, I mean, it sort of reminded me of things, where I was like, oh, the city of New York is going to be a character. I was thinking things like, the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 or something, where he was going to go to different boroughs, chasing people down and all that type of stuff. But overall, I mean, I was impressed, sort of like by his character. I was impressed to a certain degree by the casting. I just definitely, in my opinion, felt that the cast and the performers, to me, were they were elevating a script which I was expecting great things of. And I just felt that they were the ones that were basically carrying the story on their shoulders. I wanted a little more of the chase. I appreciated the whole fact that he, again, was sort of like this cop that was a shooter. So in essence, the goal is he going to, is he going to just mercilessly kill the criminals and everything? At the same token, although I like the performers, because you had him, you had Stephen James, who was in he was in the movie based on the James Baldwin story. If Beale Street could talk, or Beale Street could speak. I'm sorry, I know I'm messing it up.
It's all right.
And then you have, of course, the only thing is, I love seeing J.K. Simmons, but J.K. Simmons has had a long reputation for like being in Law and Order and everything. And I hate to say it, just having him in the story, I could tell, you could see, you could anticipate certain parts of it. So the story had a very predictable nature.
Yes.
The city of New York was not the character that I was expecting. I thought it would be like an exhaustive chase, trying to track these people down. The mystery just seemed like wherever they went, it was sort of like how they say it in almost like an orgy of evidence in terms of where the next step was going to be. And he's given this incredible deadline, but then when the story moves on, you're like, well, yeah, I believe he will make this deadline, because it's like every step of the way. So I honestly just the more thing I was most impressed with, honestly, was the performance, the story itself. I honestly wish it had, I wish it had been sort of like a Michael Mann type of a story. I'm going to put it out there, because I know, we're saying goodbye to our prince, but he and this cast, they carried this movie.
They did. They did. Now, I love any kind of Michael Mann movie, so I'm not going to argue against anything you're saying about Michael Mann.
Yeah, no.
And And yes, since they were chasing the criminals from one borough to the next, they could have made the boroughs more. They could have made the city a bigger part of the story. So since you call it 21 Bridges, then you should have gone into the whole like, well, explain what that means. You're locking it down and the significance and one neighborhood together. So if we want to talk about pieces like that, I could see that. Another thing I would say too is the female. Drug, I guess, narc that they put with him, right? He's again, like everything about the story is just classic. I work alone. They didn't even have him say those words. It was just completely assumed, right? They didn't even cover the classic, I work alone, I don't have a partner. They didn't even discuss whether he did or didn't. It was just like, just bump that. He's a guy who shoots too often. He's super detective. He works alone. They have to force I didn't even think about this just now, how unrealistic that is, that it was a given that he had no partner. Mm-hmm. They didn't even, right? Mm-hmm. Even when he was in front of internal affairs, they were just like, they interviewed him, and then when they called him to come to the shoot scene, he came by himself. When does that ever happen? Every detective has a partner. But anyway.
And I bought it for him because of his reputation of the fact that he shot. I mean, because you could definitely, I mean, in different cop dramas, you sort of have, the people who struggle to carry the weight of being a policeman.
Sure.
And then you have other people, and the fact is that if he was a shooter, he probably has that edge, the way he carries himself, that somebody is not going to either give him too much lip or give him too much anything, because that sense of danger would probably be there. So usually I was expecting. I know it's the same thing, but I was fine with it. And
right. So they just jumped straight to that. They didn't explain that. And the only thing I would say about it is that again, you always have to have, for great characters, great hero characters, have to have somebody to play off of. The first and foremost person to play off of that's best is to have a super strong villain. But when you have a storyline where the twist is you're not sure if the villain is as villainous as you thought. When the movie opens with our heist guys had something go wrong, and so someone else is screwing over the heist guys, then again, it lowers them just a peg down a peg as far as are they as villainous as you think? Not all the way, because Heat famously, they were double-crossing Heat.
I agree with your point, but the only thing is that when one of the heist guys is gone, a lot of the steam is taken out of the story. Honestly, I'm not trying to give it, but that's that. And I was like, okay, you're anticipating something bigger. If the whole thing is that there's a bigger machinery behind it,
correct.
I wanted that machinery to be intimidating, because it was an interesting choice they made, but just in my opinion, what they did, and I'm not going to say what they did, to me, just it didn't pay off, because it took some of the edge off.
I agree with you completely. I agree with you completely. That's why, without spoilers, I'm trying to say, well, here are a few things that I would have liked better, and then say what we liked overall, without saying the fact that what they did choose to do could have been better. But I didn't mind that much, and in the ways you described. The choices that they make, the reason why it works out is because the actors do a great job.
Yeah, and it also becomes central to the issue that he's dealing with. So that's why it's important.
It covers his issue.
Are important, but
it comes full circle. So they make a choice about how the story is going to end, which we're not going to tell you. And then and Claude and I are like, that's just okay. I agree with you. It was just an okay choice. But then the actors crush it. The director's like, I got the script. Now watch my performance. I mean, you pretty much get like a full-on soliloquy. Like, hi, I'm a character that wasn't in the film that long. I'm about to read these 20 lines really well. And even if you don't like the fact that I'm the one reading the lines at this part of the story, watch this. To be or not to be. What on? It's going to be really good. That is the question. And you're like, dang, I don't necessarily like that the film went this direction, but you killed that, homeboy. That was like the most awesome reading of a set of lines I had heard. Am I right?
Yeah.
Without telling them who did it.
We're gonna be quoting, you know, like Jeffrey and the Fresh Prince. Cannons to the left of me, cannons to the right. Not this way. No one says that, but you know. But yeah.
So, folks, when you go see the film, and you can come back and message us, you'll understand what we mean. Is that we didn't necessarily like where they went with the story, but the performances was really good. It cleaned it up to me, and the performance was really good. And then they gave closure to our character. Our character arc closed out in this ending choice that was just okay. And so in many ways, like, you were excited to go see it for the reasons you described. Me, I was not as excited to see it originally because I felt like the trailer gave it all away and there wasn't going to be much more to it. And what you and I are saying is, script-wise, there wasn't much more to it. The performances gave more. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd say the performance did more. And then you thought the trailer gave it away. I was hoping that it was going to deliver what the trailer said it was going to be. But anyway, I think that we're done. We're you know, yeah, we're
I don't want to say one more thing, which is semi-critical. Is that I was just saying about heroes and when heroes being balanced. I'm not specific about this story, but heroes being balanced, right? If you want to make a hero big, give me an awesome villain. And of course, there is no more awesome villain. I've been saying for years and years and years and years that the greatest comic book movie of all time. And they can keep making comic book movies and get better, but I'm just saying, looking back, I was always saying, hey, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. I just like, you know, that was the gold standard as far as I'm concerned. I love lots of other ones. I love the Marvel films. I like the first two Spider-Mans. They're all nice, but I was calling the Dark Knight the greatest. I just was, and I was going to keep doing that for some time. I loved Superman with Christopher Reeves, you know, for different reasons, right? Not the same kind of film, but still loved it. But still, Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan, #1 of all time. And I kept saying that because I was getting used to it, and then I was like, oh snap, Black Panther. Yeah, Black Panther, better. So if this is Jeff Johnson's superhero sacrilege, I'm breaking the rule right now. Yeah, Black Panther, better, technically better, not just because I love it, and I do love it, but better because the villain was much, much better, hands down. End of discussion. Much, much better than even those. I love the Joker, and of course, again. You know, there's all the reasons for the Dark Knight to be my favorite. Shot in Chicago, you know, come on, they get all the points.
I put them on the same level. I honestly do. I put them on the same level. I just, you know, I'd honestly say I mean, no, and it's not even a matter. It's a matter of opinion, but I'd honestly say that the choice that you know, in the Dark Knight that Batman was given in terms of who to save was probably the most jacked up thing I could imagine for anybody. So but anyway,
yes, that's true.
I mean, true. To me,
but I'm just that's the level for where you were picking universe,
it. Killmonger was incredibly motivated, sympathetic
villain,
and not only we're doing another movie now, but anyway, he attacked Prince T'Challa in every level. So I mean, I would honestly see. To me, it's just sort of like this. That's all I'm saying. It's like this. And then I think Killmonger just. But anyway.
Yeah. In life, you love things for lots of different reasons.
Yeah.
Right. They can't both be in Wakanda and in Chicago at the same time. So, you know, Dark Knight will have its little place. But again, the more you ask me about it, the more I still got to go Wakanda forever. And I do. And I love Chris Nolan.
Yeah,
and I love that Batman performance. I love anything shot in Chicago. I got Morgan Freeman. But doggone it, I love me some Chicago, but do I love Wakanda better? Wow, that's a hard choice to make me make on video. But if you force me to force rank,
the way I see it, the heart has 4 chambers. I can have a chamber for Black Panther and Batman, and a couple of.
Okay, all right. That's gonna be too emotional. I'm not gonna convert you.
I will honestly. I will give it slightly. I think I'll give it slightly to Killmonger, not just in terms of the man-on-man fight, symbolically in terms of attacking, the revenge factor. Even questioning Wakanda not being participating in the world to help.
In the world help? No, you have to. It's hands down.
But again, that's another movie.
It's another movie. But this is the Chadwick tribute, so it's okay.
I know.
It's the Chad tribute. I got it. So it's okay. And again, I've been saying for years that I loved it. So I'm, people can take my Batman card if they want to. But the reason why we're bringing this up is that only because this is what we do, Claude. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you love us or you hate us because we make hard segues. The reason why I'm making the segue is about strong villain. If you want to make your hero strong, that's what you got to do. You must do it. You must.
Yeah.
And Chad has played iconic roles, and what made Black Panther stand out was the sympathetic, the multi-layers. To put it in simple terms and without a fancy movie speak, is you got to say, man, I'm not so sure if my hero can beat this dude. You have to say that to yourself. You're like, I'm not sure he's gonna win. And then your hero wins because your hero's heroic, because your hero has friends. There's a reason. There's a fundamental heroic reason why your hero will overcome. Because they have friends. Because he's good. Because good should beat evil. Because this. Because that. That's why. And you have to establish them. Yeah. And again, it's not to denigrate the film that I've been saying is great forever. Because I still love Batman. But let's be clear. The Joker lied about his origin story. That was one of the clever parts about the first time you saw The Dark Knight. It was like every time he explained his origin story, he was lying, which was just amazing acting and script writing. And it made his character so crazy. And that's why you loved it. But what's better than that? The guy who's telling the truth about his origin story. And we, the audience, seems like, dang, Killmonger is a villain. He's a bad dude. He's evil, and I understand why. I get it. And everybody Black got it. Oh my goodness. The final line from Killmonger, as we've told before, you and I've talked about this before, I always felt like it was over the top. When I first watched it, I was like, okay, you don't have to go that far. I got it. I mean, you explain it. You basically explain that to the white people in the crowd. Everybody Black did not need the last line. When he dropped that last line, he was just basically saying, this movie is for Jeff Johnson, third row, about 4 back. Hey, Jeff, are you listening? I'm about to say, throw me over the ship so I can go with my ancestors. I was just like, whoa, come on, man. Did you write this just for me? Who are you writing this? Who else is watching this movie? Who else is going to get? So you have to have like you said, you have to have a villain that's sympathetic and super powerful, and then you elevate your hero. And so therefore, any script that you have, and that's one of the things about 20. Now, here's the hard segue. I'm coming back. 21 Bridges lays out right in the beginning that we're not sure, right, about our villains. They're professionals. They work together well. They get their gun on. But there's some kind of mystery. They got double-crossed. They got hoodwinked. Is there another villain bigger than them? Are they a part of some scheme that's larger than them? Again, back to Heat. Come on. De Niro's a bad dude. Now, somebody did try to screw him over. He did get cheated in Heat, right? And they did have someone double-cross them, and that person paid. Yes. There wasn't some mystery that had to be solved by the end of the movie. He took care of that. Yeah. First, he popped the trunk with plastic bag inside, and you're like, that's bad. Ladies and gentlemen, if someone walks you to the back of the car and they open the trunk and there's a plastic bag inside, you're in trouble, run. And that's what happened in Heat. He was in trouble, ran. And so, therefore, our villain, De Niro, stayed super bad. There was no mystery. There was no softening to it. In fact, it elevated the fact that he opened the trunk and he had a plastic bag and he was going to put that dude in there who tried to double cross him. That meant there is nobody worse, more villainous than our villain. Our villain is here. Is our police officer ready to meet the challenge? Is our hero going to meet the challenge? So when you have a story like 21 Bridges where they, you know, in the trailer and even in the early setup, they set up to you that the villain is here, but there's somebody else maybe worse than them. It automatically makes it harder to make the hero as large. That's my I spent the last 15 minutes giving you my superhero build-up theory, brought to you by Jeff Johnson.
Okay.
And I've seen a couple movies lately that were like that, where they're like, okay, well, if there's going to be a plot twist that makes the villain, or we have to discover who the villain is at the end, or we're going to do Project Power. Did we done that yet?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did Project Power, right? And so in Project Power, they gave us great actors, and they threw a bunch of them at once, but we weren't sure if one of them was all the way bad. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but that means you're not going to elevate this superhero as high as you thought you were. It's just, Jeff, you've heard Jeff Johnson's theory of elevating your superhero high. Give me a super bad villain. Unmistakable, non-flinching. I'm not so sure our guy's going to win. And then your hero, when they do overcome, it's just the greatest. 21 Bridges gives you a twist that they almost gave away in the trailer, but the performances are so excellent, especially and including Chadwick Boseman's performance is so excellent. That's worth watching. You should watch it anyway, because it's Chadwick Boseman tribute time. It's time to get out there and watch all the iconic roles that he played, to remind yourself how awesome his craft was that he shared with us. And then go watch all the tributes to him. Watch all the interviews and documentaries about him, so you could find out what a wonderful human being he was. And so, Claude, I'll let you have the last word.
Okay. No, I did definitely. Again, the performances to me are what made what made the movie. I'm going to, there's a part of me that's just, wondering about, I'm glad we had him for this time, and I'm glad that he did so much, and that he had, created, just portrayed nation builders in real life, and brought the Black Panther to life in an amazing way. Him and Ryan Coogler and the rest of the talented cast. I'm gonna again, I'm gonna miss seeing him in movies, but we still have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and
come full circle to get a theatrical, as in stage acting performance put on in movies. Chadwick Boseman, forever.
And forever.
And we'll see you next time. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you guys next time. I'm Jeff Johnson.
Claude Faitier.